And joining me now to talk Texans is Brandon Scott of SportsRadio 610, a friend of KHOU. We've known you a long time here, and we're both wearing purple. It's the color of royalty. Texans aren't feeling real regal right now, but they're feeling better than what they were the last couple of years. At OTAs, you were there. How was there? What did you see?
Yeah, I just feel like it's the newness that is the excitement right now. And I've been saying this for a long time on the radio and anywhere where I get a chance. The newness of it all, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new team overall, the defense. Like, you've got a lot of pieces that are coming back that are important pieces, but you got new key pieces on the defense. They remade the linebacking core. Obviously, Will Anderson was the number 3 overall pick who they traded up to get, and a lot is riding on that. A lot is riding on this season, to be honest with you, considering the fact that they traded their own pick next year. And so I'm much more interested in how good this team could be, considering that it's a young team. I'm much more interested in how good they can be, considering that they traded that pick and they actually need to be good this year. So I just wanted to get my eyes laid on these guys and see what they're working with. And, you know, honestly, it's just good to be out there on the football field again. And we'll see kind of when we get further on into the offseason what it's really looking like.
I think it's important for the team to finally have foundational pieces, right? Because after last season, they had a couple of nice rookies. But then after the season ended, you looked on their website for their season ticket pitch, and there were guys on there that you couldn't even recognize, right? But now they have foundational pieces, and more specifically the guy at quarterback, CJ Stroud. He's got good size. I mean, that's the one thing we've seen throughout the draft process. He's got good size. He throws a good ball. We saw that firsthand. What did you take away from CJ? Yeah,
he's basically the prototype of the kind of quarterback that you would want. Good size, pretty good mobility, but more than anything, really, it's the accuracy. It stands out when you're watching him in individual drills as well as the team drills. And so there's a clear reason why they went and drafted this guy number 2 overall. Obviously, he had all of the success that he did at Ohio State. But that's the big thing, Daniel, is that he stands out sort of physically and just overall, just watching him throughout the time that we were able to watch him. So I'm really interested to see how they go about developing CJ Stroud, how they go about easing him into this role that is clearly going to be his. That's the reason why you draft a guy number 2 overall. Right. And so what's this process sort of going to look like? That's the big observational thing for us right now as we sort of chronicle this thing. How are they easing him along into a job that's obviously going to be his?
Well, the mental process for him is huge, right? You're learning a new scheme, not only just a new scheme, life in the NFL. You're playing under center more in this offense, most likely. Didn't really do much of that. I know D'Amico Ryan said, yeah, no, he kind of did that in college. He didn't really do that at Ohio State. It was mostly shotgun. But I think from judging from the press availabilities and some of the things that the other guys are saying, his teammates are saying, his mental makeup is right for a task like this, I feel like.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the whole part about under center and them downplaying that. I wouldn't downplay that. It's fine for them to do that internally and to sort of kind of put that posturing out there of, hey,
it's a change, man.
No big deal. But you better believe behind the scenes when they're actually working on it, that's something that they got to key in on because they're going to do a lot of it. But when you talk about the mental makeup, the work ethic, some of the intangible things on top of what we know about CJ Stroud, what we've seen from CJ Stroud in his on-the-field performances, there are some things behind the scenes about him, a quality about him that I think translates into being the leader that I think they ultimately want him to be.
Putting God first, too, man. I think that's great. He says that every time he comes up there, give thanks and glory to God. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of refreshing in this day and age to see a young guy like that do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, too, on this team, a position of note, we'll talk about different positions. For me, it's the offensive line. D'Amico Ryans was very, very happy, let's say, with what they've done so far in the offseason with that line. Maybe it's lessons learned for this franchise in years past with a young quarterback. But if you stand next to that group, too, they've got great size. They've got veteran presence on that offensive line, and they've got some good mobility, which you and I were talking about before we did this, is essential, really, for this type of offense.
Yeah, we've heard them talk about various figures on the team, from Shaq Mason, a new acquisition, someone that they traded for and paid this offseason. It's going to be their right guard. We've heard him say to us that he thinks that this offensive line could be one of the top in the league. Now, is that true? Is that going to play out the way he says? We'll have to see, but he's talked about that. D'Amico Ryans himself says that he thinks that this is going to be one of the strengths of the team, and it's obviously important. We just talked about CJ Stroud. Well, how are you going to develop a young quarterback and not develop an offensive line. Like, those things go hand in hand. You absolutely have to do it. And then historically, obviously, as you and I know, and as our listeners and viewers and the Houston Texans fans know, they've been trying to get this offensive line right for years now and have not been able to do so. If the Shaq Mason acquisition works out and Kenyon Green develops, recovers from, his offseason injury and program and all of that, and everything works out the way that they want it to. Obviously, they've got a rookie center that they just drafted, a couple of them. And so we really want to see how all of that unfolds. I'm personally interested. I'm optimistic about the offensive line. I'm a little pessimistic about the wide receiving core. Yeah. So if you were to ask me what position group I'm most interested in watching, especially right now when they're mostly in T-shirts and shorts, it's the stuff that we can see more so from that. And it's the work that they do with the wide receivers, because there's a little bit to be desired there, in terms of the depth and the overall quality of talent. So I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, they have Robert Woods, a veteran. They brought him in. I don't know how much he's actually going to contribute. You'd think behind the scenes he's probably going to be pretty good for some of these young wide receivers. Tank Dell, though, he's got that explosiveness, and everybody talks about that explosive. That's a nice piece to have, too, for this offense.
I would say on both the names that you just mentioned, Robert Woods, Tank Dell, and just overall what they've tried to do with the acquisitions that they made in the offseason, and Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz, the tight end from both of those guys from the Cowboys. They need and want precise route runners. And you can talk about Tank Dell's size, and you look out there and you're like, man, that doesn't look like, physically doesn't look like an NFL player. But if he's that size and he's out there in the NFL, you better believe that there's something to that.
I mean, he's so good. He's so shifty. We saw that at U of H. I mean, even in an offense like U of H was this past year, it was okay. He was the featured guy. But man, he's just so good running those routes with the cuts. We heard Robert Woods talk about that same thing. Yeah, and he knows wide receivers.
Well, and Robert Woods is a guy that's like that. And you talk about, hey, the one thing that they don't have is just that clear, take the top off of the defense type of guy that's going to stretch the field. But what they do have are some guys who have a track record of being precise and reliable route runners, and I think that's going to be really important for a rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud.
I think overall it's a fun time to follow the Texans again. I mean, we've gone through just misery here for 2 or 3 years, ever since Bill O'Brien and all the changeover. We don't have to rehash all that, but there's just a new vibe. I don't know. I just get a new vibe. Jalen Petrie talked about that he feels it too. I don't know if that's just kind of talking up their current state, but I genuinely think there's a good vibe around this team. You hear from callers all the time on Sports Radio 610. I think people are excited about where we're going here, and that's a good thing to say about the NFL team.
The new good vibes start with DeMeco Ryans.
That's right.
They knocked that hire out of the park. Right. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans, two things. The history here, having been a great player here at one time, and then also just individually as a coach, one of the top coaching candidates that you could have found in the market this offseason. So when you couple those things together, why wouldn't the fan base be excited about bringing a guy like that in? And then you go out on draft night and you're aggressive. You can criticize the aggressiveness. You can question it and wonder, hey, should they have done this? I personally am not sure if I would have done it. I don't think I would have actually. But I love.
It was risky, but.
But I love that they did it, that they showed some level of conviction and said, hey, you know what? We like this player, and not only do we like this player, but we like our team so much that we're going to give our draft pick to go get that player. And you know what? We're going to be good next year. So I'm counting on the Texans to be good on that word, or at least be good on what they showed us outwardly by being aggressive on draft night.
Brandon Scott, Sports Radio 610. Always nice to have you here, buddy. Thanks for joining me.
A pleasure. Thank you.